Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 85th episode of Kouryer podcast. Today, I'm joined by Miss Elodie Mondoloni. She's a freelance concept artist and art director from Cambridge, United Kingdom. And well, with that quick introduction out of the way, could you please let's jump into the next question? First question, I mean. Give us a little introduction on how you got into visual arts and design.
Hi everyone. So basically, I started my career by being in a video game school to learn 3D in the first place. So I've done basically a bachelor degree of game art to learn 3D, but also animation and everything that is art related in the video games. And then after that, I basically realized that it's not exactly what I wanted to do. I wasn't that interested in the technical aspect of video games. So I basically taught myself a little bit more in concept art and illustration, and I decided to go from there. I've done a lot of personal work to have my portfolio ready, and then I started looking for concept art jobs, and I found my first job um, at an indie studio in Paris called Parallel Studio. I spent about 6 months over there, and then I switched to freelance for a little while. And after that, I got my first in house proper studio job, which was at Frontier Development. I worked on Planet Zoo. I worked on Elite Dangerous, and now I'm back in being freelance. And I'm currently working on the art direction of a game called Party Animals.
All right, sounds awesome. And there, a question just popped in my mind that I want to ask, based on the answer you just gave. Were you originally studying art and design, like at first, like when you were a teenager, or you were pursuing another career path, maybe, you know? Because
Completely
you,
different, actually. Yeah.
yeah, sorry, go
So
on.
basically, I after high school. So in France, we basically do a pretty generic high school, and we then specialize a little bit. And my specialization for my diploma was scientific. So in the first place, I wanted to be an engineer. And I've been to a job fair, and in a corner of the room, there was basically that video game school that was showing some cool people like modeling on Cintiq and modeling characters for the video games, and I completely got hooked. I just took a leaflet just to be curious. I didn't really think much of it at the time, and then there was the school was basically doing open doors where you can visit the school and talk to the students and all that. I visited and I just fell in love with video games in general because I wasn't playing that many video games before that school. Like every kid, I played a little bit, but I wasn't a huge video game nerd in the first place, and I just completely fell in love with the whole video game world. And after my diploma, I completely gave up everything that was engineer related, and I jumped into the video game career.
Awesome. And well, speaking of the fact that you just jumped into the whole video game industry and all of that, the next question is, what is your main branch of design that you're focusing on right now? And tell us about your experience from the start of it until now. I mean, of course, in the introduction, I already mentioned that you're a concept artist and art director, but I want you to, if it's possible, to go a little bit in depth of your whole experience in it.
Okay. Well, basically, the day-to-day job is designing. I'm specialized in environments. I don't do that many characters. I used to do a little bit more when I was a student and freelance in the first place. But I really have a strong passion for architecture and the environments in general. So I started to pursue that. I also do more stylized work. I don't do that many realistic environments or very very sci-fi because I've done a lot while I was working on Elite Dangerous, and I'm a bit tired of it. So now I'm basically focused on stylized work. So on a day to day basically how does the job looks like. It's basically I've got a brief or a short introduction of what I'm supposed to be designing. And I basically am going to start sketching different variants of it, different designs, about like I don't know, maybe 10-ish, something like that. Depends if it's a smaller asset, maybe not as much. But yeah, I do that. It's the same process for environments or props. I have a short introduction, I sketch some ideas, then I refine them, and once I've got a design I'm happy with, I'm gonna render it a little bit more, add some lighting, add some life to it, really render it properly, and yeah, draw tons of little texture details and things like that. And once that's done, it's been taken to a 3D artist, and then that's when the art director job kicks in. As after the 3D modeling has been done, I'm basically here to see if it's conform to the concept I've done, if we can adapt it, because when you're doing something in 3D for video games, you can always tweak some stuff here and there for it to work a little bit better in 3D. So yeah, basically I design environments and I make sure that they look as good as possible in the game afterwards.
All right. And speaking of your work and the stuff you design and sketch, and there's another question. How does your design process usually go? Usually, anytime you want to start working on a project, like what I mean by that, for example, imagine you have a prompt or idea of like a maybe a environment or maybe a prop for a set, something like that in your mind, and you want to basically draw it, and so it will be available to be sent to, for example, I don't know, 3D modeling teams in the stuff like that, basically industry ready. I don't know how to explain it, sorry. From zero to finished, how does your pipeline and process usually goes whenever you want to start working on a project?
So the first thing that I have to do is search for reference. It's basically the only way you can get a prop that is rich in detail, interesting, and also consistent with what you're meant to design. So first thing is search for references. So I'm gonna go online and let's say I have to design an environment for sub-Saharan um, building, let's say. So I'm going to look at tons of references of cities in Ethiopia, cities everywhere in Africa, basically, so I can get a hold of what material they use, what shape they use. I'm going to basically have a mood board of images that represents all of this. I say Ethiopia because I'm really inspired by the architecture over there, and especially by a city that is called Lalibela, and it's like an amazing buried city that's very square and very, very, very cool designs in there. So I basically I searched tons of references of images. I'm also very inspired by pottery, like ancient potteries. Any kind. It doesn't even need to be a building. I can even just look at some weapons they used to use, or some other props, maybe some transportation modes, and all that kind of stuff is going to give me an idea of um, what's the visual that I'm gonna go for. So once I've got that mood board all set up, I'm gonna try and decide what feature I want to put in my design, like what are the main feature of the design. So do I want square shapes? Do I want rounded shapes? What kind of materials do I want? Is that more wood? Is that more metal? Is that more like dirt? All that kind of stuff. So once I've got that good base, I can start my sketches. I'm going to try different shapes. I'm going to try to have a defined silhouette too. If it's like a main building, I don't want it to look like any other building. It needs to be a bit more special. So let's say I've got a design, I don't know, a market barrow, but the merchant is selling pickles. I don't know. I'm gonna try and add tons of little details that are making that little cart very specific to that character. So let's say saying pickle is selling pickles. So I'm gonna like the little lights, little lanterns are gonna be mason jars. I'm gonna add tons of little pickles hanging off hanging off the roof of the market barrow. Basically, try and find tons of little ideas that will make the design a bit fun and add a bit of storytelling. Like storytelling is very very important for me when designing an environment. I want the environment to look like it's been lived in, and like we could almost picture the character that is using the prop or living in that environment without even seeing him. I want the environment to have like personality, basically. So once I've got my sketch, several ideas, several sketches, I'm going to refine one that I like the most, and then I've got a specific process because I like to use 3D. I'm coming from a 3D school, so I still use 3D. So I'm going to do a quick block out of my sketch, and I'm gonna light it. I'm gonna add some materials if I need to, and then I'm gonna paint over it. And the reason why I use a little bit of 3D is so basically I can turn around the object, see if it works in 3D, choose different angles. It also helps with perspective. It can help with how the light reacts to different shapes, different materials. So that's why I use 3D. And yeah, once it's done, I'm adding details. I'm adding the colors if I need to add colors. I'm adding like all the nice textures, like the wood cracks, all that kind of stuff. And that's it. I've got my props.
All right. And well, I mean, we talked about a lot about designing stuff for games and game industry and all of that stuff. And well, I mean, in this section of the podcast, I want to ask you about some of your works and also talk about some games. Talk about
Mhm.
some video games. All right. So the first thing I want to ask you is that I mean I took a look at your art station stuff and also your works on Instagram. They all look, especially the lightings and colorings, look so fresh and live. They all look so beautiful.
Thank you very
And
much.
one of them that I actually found, that concept I found really cool, is the a weapon design you did for workshop, and the name of it is called Yokai Catcher, which is really cool because in the middle of it it's like a bell that attracts them, and I really find that concept really smart and clever twist to a weapon, in fantasy settings. And well, explain that to us, how the idea came by, the whole concept, and just anything about detail you could share with us.
So basically, I applied the same process I talked about earlier. On this one specifically, I really like big, chunky swords, like great swords. I don't know if you're familiar with the game Monster Hunter World.
No, I have never played it.
Um, it's basically a game where you kill huge monsters, and once you kill them, you basically craft weapons with their skills, with the materials they give you, and it's always very very big weapons that they are as tall as your character, and they always look so heavy, so chunky, and I absolutely love that. And I also love the idea that the weapon you use to kill your enemy is partially crafted or at least related in terms of design to that enemy. So in that case, I had in mind a yokai. So a yokai is basically a Japanese spirit. You've got plenty of them. They're all different. But I didn't really push any specific yokai on this design, just general idea of a spirit. And so with that in mind, I knew that I wanted a chunky sword and I wanted it to kill yokais. So I started looking up tons of references about feudal Japan, different practices, different materials they use. I've in a previous design I've done, I've noticed something called kintsukuroi, and it's basically a way of repairing broken potteries in feudal Japan, where you basically take all the broken pieces and reassemble them together with gold. So that's what you can see in the blade. You've got some gold rims basically, and it's like the sword has been broken and it's been repaired with gold. There's also jade. The green material is made of jade because you can see that material a lot in like Japanese potteries and stuff like that. So for the shape, I didn't really pick a specific shape. I just started doodling and draw some different ideas, and that's the shape I like the most. But I really, really wanted the sword um, to have a bell that attracts the spirit, so then you can kill him. So that's why you've got the bell, and the reason why it's in the middle is because I've seen in some temple in Japan, you basically have a big round shape, a circle as some sort of gate, and you have to go into it. And basically, that's what that reminded me a little bit of this. And I was like, okay, so I'm just going to put my bell in the middle. It's going to create an interesting shape too, to have this rounded cutout in the middle. And then as soon as the yokai goes in the middle and basically touches the bell, that's where you can actually kill him. So it's all very, it's not very precise or very. It's just ideas basically, and storytelling in general. That's why you've got the little bell and these different elements that go together. There's also the handle of the sword that is a little bit like the handle of katanas. You've got some sort of piece of fabric that is wrapped around it, and I wanted to replicate that too. So yeah, that's basically, I tried to take tons of different elements from Japanese culture and put it in a sword.
That is actually so cool. Now that you went, like, while you were like explaining the details, I was also looking at it. I was like, huh, I didn't notice that. But when you like explained it, I was like, oh, that's the golden seams. That's the golden stuff in the cracks of it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why I like having some little storytelling details that are not necessarily super on the nose or very, very obvious, but it's only when you actually give it a second look that you're like, oh, yeah, actually, I recognize that. And oh, okay, I don't want it to be too much in the nose. Like, um, I don't know, if I do like a food truck, I don't want it to be shaped like a sausage, basically. I'm only gonna use some elements and things like that in a subtle way, I hope. Um, but yeah, that's I like this little. It's almost like Easter eggs, basically.
Oh my god. Like, in some senses, like, we have the same type of thinking when it comes to designing stuff. Like, I personally love putting time to just make these small little details and patterns for potentially for some maybe small minority of people to notice and say, hey, I figured that out, or this or that. Like, it could be in architectural sketches, it could be in video game design, it could be in anything, it could be even sometimes in the middle of my podcast, and I say some stuff in the middle. um like the other time, I think in episode 83, like, we talked about, what was it? Oh yeah, a bee flew into the guest's room, and we were just talking about, we put a name for it and stuff like that, and we told everyone that if anyone does make a fan art, we're going to give him a reward or something. I don't think anyone did make a fan art for the bee, but yeah, you get the point.
Yeah, it's basically fun little details that if you don't know, you don't know. It doesn't take anything off the experience, but if you notice it, it brings a little moment, basically.
Yeah. Wait, we didn't say we would give anything, but oh yeah, we said we would appreciate it if you guys drew anything for the fan art of George the bee that died. Yeah, because George the bee that
Oh, I
tried
didn't
to
know it died.
harass. Yeah, I mean, he was trying to sting the guy, like, I mean, it was fair and square. It wasn't like one of those buzzy, cute bees that would just, go around looking for flowers. It was a soldier bee. All right.
No.
Another thing that I actually wanted to take a point at is that, aside from the environment stuff and the prop stuff, like, there's some, like, really, like, weirdly enough, appetizing looking food, like, illustrations. And I swear I'm not kidding. Like, the cake with the lemons on them and the crab. I mean, just remove the crab, but I love a lemon cake. Just from seeing it. Like, they actually look appetizing, and I'm not kidding.
Well, that the whole point with these little dishes is that I wanted something that kind of looks this that is on the paper is disgusting. I wanted it to look super appetizing. So you've got like the crab cake. Honestly, I would eat it, but I'm French, so I would eat anything as long as they're garlic butter. But I don't. I mean, all the crab cake with the lemon. The I think I've done a radish cheesecake, and the other one
Yeah.
was I think it was
Octopus, tomato.
yeah, an octopus tart. Uh, Even if it looks disgusting, I mean, it should be disgusting, but I wanted it to look super appetizing, and it all comes with the texture and the lighting. Like any kind of food advertisement, you know how they make everything very shiny, very colorful, very juicy. Well, I wanted to
Yeah.
do the same thing here, even if the ingredients are meant to be gross, which they are not actually, because octopus is delicious and so is everything that is presented there. But yeah, basically that all comes with the texture. I put a lot of detail in the texture to make it juicy, to make it like slightly grilled, and that's what make it appetizing, I think.
Here's the thing, like on a really deep level, there's something I noticed in your works, that there was another guest who had like a same level of detail when it comes to, like, actually, like, it shows that when it comes to the fundamentals of drawing, maybe it's just my personal opinion, maybe I'm wrong, your lighting and understanding of colors and lighting is way, 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 way above, like, most people that I've seen their works. And I actually had another guess, and funny enough, I think she also was French Canadian, not the French, Roxanne Beryl Monfet. Her colorings are amazing. I mean, our colorings are amazing as well. Like, your lighting and coloring, like, it's, you can feel the difference when you compare it to the other works of other people, just by these metrics, because they make that, whether it's an object or food or environment, you can feel, I don't know how to, it's untangible feeling, but you can feel the
Well,
environment or the object, you know what I mean?
um, that's where 3D actually helps a lot because obviously I know how to light things, I know how to associate colors with each others, but 3D helps me a lot to I basically light my 3D modeling, my 3D block out, and I render it, so the light is kind of calculated for me. I'm gonna add highlights and texture and all the colors, I add it afterwards, but it helps me a lot with the lights, like how does the light reacts to this volume, all the bounce light also, um, the I don't know, the ambient occlusion, all this is basically done by the 3D software. um, so that's something I don't have to worry about, and I can focus because I don't have to worry about the technical aspect of the drawing, like how lights bounce and react to stuff. I can focus way more on the design, like making fun storytelling elements, nice shapes, nice colors, because I don't have to worry about the lighting. So yeah, 3D helps a lot in that way. That's for sure.
All right, now let's jump into one of the subjects I've been waiting to talk to you about, which is video games. First, I mean, you already mentioned that you weren't that, much of a, like, hardcore gamer, or just, as much as the other kids usually were. Like, you got into games, like, since, like, you kind of entered the whole space of, like, video game industry and all that stuff. Well, here's what I'm gonna ask. Tell me this story of your gaming, and also tell me some of your favorite games and why are they your favorite games.
So I started with the most toxic games of all, League of Legends. Uh, like a lot of people. So I started playing League of Legends, like I think in season 2 or 3. I played for probably 3 years, 3 seasons, and then I just got so annoyed with it. It's just not fun. People are not fun in there. I wasn't having fun at all. So I
It's
just got
gotten
off.
worse, by
Why
the
am
way.
I Yeah, and I have no doubt about this. And now there's more and more characters, and they all look the same. And I don't know. No, it's just too much. So no, thank you. I mean, there's enough toxicity everywhere. I don't need it to be in my video games either. So yeah, I stopped playing the League of Legends, like literally from a day to another. I completely stopped because, like, why am I doing this to myself? It's not great. So after that, I started playing Guild Wars 2, and I still play Guild Wars 2 up to this day. I played, I don't know, maybe thousands and thousands of hours with my friends. It was way more. I loved the MMO feeling of having your friends online. I had my guild. I have my like the game is not necessarily super alive right now. It's there's gonna have a new expansion soon, but um, like you meet up with your friends and you do tons of stuff, different content. The content in Guild Wars 2 is amazing. You've got so many things to do. It takes a lot of time because obviously it's an MMO, but it's just the universe is gorgeous. The maps are fantastic. It's a great game. The story is amazing too. So I played a lot of Guild Wars 2, and I also played Breath of the Wild a lot, several times. Maybe I think I completed it 3 times with the expansions. It's my favorite game of all times in terms of well, it looks amazing. First off, the designs are really cool. I really like the characters and the environments in there. The story is really cool too, even if it's not a very story-driven game. There's still the little story there is. I love it. But it's also mostly about the exploration that you have in this game. There's a feeling of you can go anywhere you want, everywhere you want to climb, you can climb it, even if there's nothing there. Like you want to climb a mountain, there's nothing there. Well, that's fine. You just that's the journey. You basically spend 15 minutes trying to climb because it's raining, but it's just you can do it. Anything you want to do, you can do it in this game, and the exploration is really rewarded. Like, for example, climbing that mountain. Most of the time, you'll find a little surprise. I don't know if you're familiar with the game, but you'll find a cork seed. It's basically a little puzzle you have to solve, and it gives you a little seed that you can use later to upgrade your weapons and things like that. And no matter where you go, you'll always find these little puzzles that you have to solve, and you see these little storytelling elements. You can, let's say you want to climb a mountain, you've got like 30 different ways of doing it. You can climb it just like this. You can basically build a raft and inflate some balloons and put it in the air. It's just so free, this game. And I just love the feeling. The music is really great too. So, yeah, Breath of the Wild. I could talk about it for hours. It's just an amazing game. Um, and more recently, I played Spiritfarer, which is a game by Thunder Lotus, and it's it's complicated to describe it, but it's a very narrative-driven game. You basically you're the new, I don't know how to call that. You're basically the new person that drives souls to the other side. I don't know if there's a specific word for that, but you basically welcome spirits on your boat, and you try to talk with them, see what's their story, trying to solve their problems if they have any, and they do. You also on the side have some crafting mechanics. You can grow your little botanical garden. You've got some little trees you can grow. You basically go from island to island to pick up materials and to pick up different spirits. That's where you find them. And yeah, they've got really, really great stories that are uh, trigger warning. It can be a very, very intense game because it's about death, and all the story you welcome on your boats, they're all about death, but in a different way. You learn how those people lived before dying and how they took that death. And yeah, you basically have to take them to the other side. And it's a very, very emotional game. It's written in a very clever way, too. The stories are not stereotypical, they're just very interesting. And you can really feel the love of the developers in that game, and I absolutely adore this game. It's fantastic. So yeah, if you're looking for a beautiful game, it's also absolutely gorgeous. So if you're looking for a beautiful narrative game, it's really an amazing game.
All right. And before we move on to the next question, I just had one more question that I'm curious about. In League of Legends, what were your main heroes?
It was Cassiopeia. I was a mid laner.
Ah, all right.
I also did a lot of Zyra for a while as a support, but also mid laner. I played that in like season 3, something like that. So yeah, that's my two main. That
Yeah,
used
actually,
to
I
be.
think I saw some of your Zyra illustration. Zaya? No,
Yeah,
Zyra,
I actually
Zyra.
did one. I've completely forgot. No, did I? No, it wasn't Zyra. Sorry. See, all the characters look the same. It's another character from Guild Wars. It's a character called Faolain, and it's also a plant lady. So that's where it's coming from. But yeah, it's not Zyra, but it does look like it now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, here's the thing, like, most online games are now not just League. I mean, of course, League and games like League, Dota 2, all like MOBAs basically, they're all super toxic. Like, it's just insane. Like, you can't play them alone like you can't solo queue into a game. You have to have a full party of
Yeah,
friends
that's for
for
sure.
it to
Yeah.
be bearable, not just fun, be bearable. And
Yeah, I
yes,
basically stopped playing alone because I didn't want to play it with any friends either because it's just not fun. And I think
yeah,
it's because it's very competitive, which I understand, but I played competitive games. Like I've played a huge lot of Destiny 2, and people are not that toxic. Even in PvP, they're not that toxic. It's just even when you're doing like high stake dungeons or very very complicated end game content, people are not as toxic as League of Legends, or I don't know. I didn't really play any other games like Dota, or I don't know, Apex or Tarkov, all that kind of stuff. I didn't play it, but I see how toxic it is, and there are other games that are not that toxic but still
yeah.
competitive. So I don't know what it is about it.
I think I actually have an idea. Like, for example, a game like Destiny 2 that you mentioned, that because it's a game that you need to grind and work hard for a lot of stuff, for loot, for rewards, for progressing in the game basically. It requires a certain amount of like level of focus and patience, which most usually younger people don't have. So usually most people are usually more must be like an average more grown up than, like, for example, the average League player, or I don't know, Dota 2 player, or Fortnite player.
Yeah, it
And
might be the
that's,
target that is a bit different.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my god,
I
like,
don't know.
yeah, you might not believe it, but even in chess, like in the past year, I've actually gotten into chess. I'm not kidding, there's a lot of toxicity in chess.
Oh,
It's
really? Is there a
insane.
chat in actually a chat in chess.com?
Yes, there's a chat.
Oh, I didn't know that.
People say racist stuff. People ask you for
Jeez.
rematch when they lose, for they want to win, and they lose again. They say the most absurd stuff ever. Like, some people, like, you might not believe, like, grown-ups, like 40, 50 year olds.
So see, that's what you were saying about League. It's not necessarily the fact that it's child playing it, because I know a lot of grown up that are super
Yeah, you're
toxic in playing
right.
League, and if it's also toxic in chess.com, like it means that it's definitely not. I don't think 12 years old, a lot of them are playing chess, or maybe I'm wrong, but um, it doesn't seem like a very young audience either. So I don't know. I think people are a bit stressed out at the moment.
No,
Might
no,
be that.
no, it's not that. It's always been the case, like in everything. But now, like, for example, with online games, there's a chance for people to some. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, egotistical people want to feel big compared to someone else. They want to feel that dynamic of being bigger than something else. And with online gaming, they have the chance. So if you put all the pieces of puzzle together, you get why there's so many toxic people in online games, because it's,
I mean, I'm not even sure it's that, because I know a lot of people, that great people in real life, and that are toxic on video games, and I just think it's because online you don't have that. You've got the fact that you're anonymous and you can say whatever the fuck you want.
yeah,
It's not
true.
going to have any. Most of the time, you're going to have no repercussion on your day to day life. So that's probably why, the fact that you have no consequences, but sometimes it does, and
Mm.
it doesn't necessarily, if you're toxic on video games, doesn't mean that you're a terrible person, egotistic ass, but it can turn really good people into other people. Weirdly enough, I was also very toxic on League. Like, uh, I felt like I needed to fit the whole
Yeah.
environment.
Now
I
here's the
wasn't the most
thing.
toxic, but
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. There's a huge difference between being like playfully toxic, like, and there's a difference between hateful asshole
oh
toxic.
yeah, that's for
There's
sure.
a huge difference. Like as you said, like there's great people who are toxic in games, but their toxicness is not like trying to hurt someone or be hateful. You know what I mean? It's in the context of the game.
Yeah, there's a difference between saying report at the end of a game and literally saying racist slurs and things like that. So obviously there are different levels. That's true.
Yeah. And all right, let's move on from the whole subject of online toxicity and move on to the next question. The next question is, who are your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Oh, if I had to name one, I really couldn't name one.
No, you
Um,
can name many as you want.
Yeah. So in traditional art, there are two artists. It's very very different from my style actually, but for some reason I absolutely love their work and I find it fascinating. It's um, Barlow and also Zdidlo Bekinski. They're basically two. So Wayne Barlow. Sorry, I didn't say his name. Wayne Barlow and Zdidlo Bekinski, if I'm saying it correctly. It's basically two artists that are doing very very dark fantasy um, paint of it's basically it shows how hell is represented in their head, I assume, because it's not very traditional representation of hell, but it's basically a representation of hell with different levels, a very specific hierarchy. That's for Wen Barlow, and Bekinsky is just very very dark, very dark imageries, very surreal too. It doesn't necessarily make any sense, but it's just very very strong in the way it composes its image. The subject it decides to treat, so it's very much related to war, to um, cheery stuff. But I don't know why I'm so fascinated by these two artists, but they're absolutely amazing, and it's mind blowing what can come out of their brain. Um, but yeah, it's definitely not the style I make because I tend to make colorful, cute stuff. But I don't know, I'm really fascinated by the way they build their universe. So I guess it's related to my work in the way that they build a universe and they've got proper rules in that universe and they have a very strong storytelling for each of their image. So that's why I love their work so much, is the storytelling that it's in there. And in terms of digital artists, I absolutely love the work of Andrew Poulter, is senior concept artist at Blizzard at the moment. I also love Alexandre Diboine. Is doing really, really cute characters with a lot of personality and very bouncy shape, very dynamic. Um, so Alexandre Diboine, I've got Andrew Poulter, Danny Diaz too. Is I absolutely love his work. Very dynamic. Once again, they're a bit closer to the work I do in a way that it's stylized and it's a bit more cheery and cute. Um, but there are so many others that I couldn't really. Uh, a lot of them I actually have their name in my head, but I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it the right way. There's also Anya Jo Delvish, I think it's her name. I'm not sure about the name. I'm very very sorry if it's the wrong pronunciation, but she's doing amazing colorful environments too. She's got a very strong sense of lighting and composition. I just love her work. So yeah, a lot of artists really. I could think of really really many more, but I don't have all the names in my. I've got the work their work in my head, but I don't have their names for that. These are my main my favorite artists, I'd say.
All right, and well, actually, that's one of the questions that everyone kind of has problems with, And the most common thing is that people remember the artists by their works, not their names. So it's also hard for them to, remember the name. All right. So the next question is, what technologies and softwares do you mostly use for your works?
So in terms of setup, I've got a very bad setup at the moment. I've got a laptop. I think it's an Asus. No, it's an MSI. I think MSI something. I've got a good graphic card in there, enough to support my software and my Cintiq. So I've got a Cintiq on the side. It's a 27 HD. I used to work with Intuos Pro for years. I just got that Cintiq from a colleague for half price. It's a used one and it still works, so I'm really happy about it. But I could definitely work with Intuos Pro. So that's basically for the setup, and for the softwares, I work mainly with Photoshop for everything that is illustration, painting over, and when I'm doing my 3D bases, I work with Maya. And when I render it, it's usually the renderer inside Maya that is called Arnold. It is definitely not the best software for that. I'd say if I had to recommend any software, it would be Blender anytime because it's free and because it's doing absolutely great renders and you can do so many amazing stuff with it. The reason why I'm using Maya is because I learned everything on Maya and now I'm very very fast on Maya. I've been working on Maya for like 6 years now, if it's not more. So I'm comfortable on Maya, and the reason why I use 3D is to go faster, to not being worried about the technical side. So if I was using Blender, it would take me more time to do stuff than it does in Maya, because I'm so used to the software. But I'm slowly transitioning. I am learning Blender, but it takes a lot of time to get out of the comfort zone to learn something new. And I've got this automatism that I've got on Maya that are not necessarily the same on Blender. But what is absolutely great about Blender is that when you follow a tutorial and you do it on your machine, it does the same thing. Well, on Maya, for some reason, you always find a reason why it doesn't work. And it's because you didn't take the right thing, or because on this the tutorial is slightly different, so it doesn't work. And sometimes you just don't know why, and you'll never know why. So yeah, I would recommend Blender for anyone that is starting. But I am using Maya for now.
All right. And any advice and tips for a good portfolio and resume for artists?
Um, for resume, I don't really have any tips because to me it's very secondary. If the portfolio is good, the resume is less important to me, at least. So for portfolio, I would say it depends on who you target. You don't have one portfolio for every company you're going to apply to. If you want to apply to, let's say, Riot Games, you will have to have stylized work on your portfolio. That seems like obvious, but it's not necessarily. I've seen portfolios applying in different companies I worked on, and they don't have the portfolio at all. That it really doesn't fit the game they want to work on. So it's much harder for us to project that person working with us if the portfolio really doesn't fit. So basically, even if you target different companies, you can do different style. It's possible, but you have to target your portfolio to this company. So Riot Games, you want to do some stylized. Ubisoft, most of their game, not all of their game, but if you want to work on Assassin's Creed, you will have to show a bit more realistic portfolio. So really adapt your portfolio to the places you're applying to and for the games you're applying to. In terms of level, um, when you look for a company, try and check the artists they have there, their portfolio, and try to match that. If you're a junior artist, we're not going to ask you to replicate the same quality as someone that is a principal or an art director, obviously, but try and have a level that could be shown next to that level. It's it's it gives you a good idea of the level you're supposed to have to work on that company. And also, there's always a debate between should you be very versatile or should you be more specific in one style and that's it. Um, it really depends where you're applying. I'd say if you want to apply in a very small indie studio, I would say being versatile is a bit better because you're gonna be able to help in way more aspects of the development. I've already worked in smaller studios, and one person was doing the job of five people. Like you had the person doing the concept that was the same as doing the modeling. Then you had an animator that was also doing VFX. So for smaller indie studio, the more you know how to do stuff, the better it is. But for very big studios, usually they will recruit people that are a bit more specific in their skills. I don't know. Well, I'm going to talk about what I know, but for example, if you were applying for, let's say, working on Elite Dangerous, you would have to showcase a very good understanding of shape language for sci-fi, for example. So, and they are going to recruit you if you have good sci-fi in your portfolio, not necessarily if you're doing, um, I don't know, stylized stuff. Like I was an exception because I got recruited at Frontier Development to work on Planet Zoo. That's why they wanted something stylized, and then I worked on Elite Dangerous. But if nowadays they were recruiting for Elite Dangerous, let's say, I don't want to talk for them, obviously, but that's usually how it goes. If you want to work on a sci-fi game, it's better to have sci-fi in your portfolio. So yeah, that's what I would say. If you want to work a bit more in a very big studio, be a bit more specific in your skills. And if you want to work on an indie studio, the more versatile you are, the best.
All right. And what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? What kind of project is it? I mean, of course, I mean, if there's an NDA involved, we can skip right past this question. But if
Um,
that's not the case, could you tell us what you're doing right now?
so at the moment, I'm working on a game called Party Animal. Animals. It's a little party game that you play with your friends. Basically, you just fight with very cute animals. There was a beta like a few months ago. I think it was a year ago, and I'm working on the art direction of that with Jacob Irish, which is also a very great talented concept artist. Is helping me with the art direction too. We're both working in collaboration on that. So basically, we're working on the environment for that game. I can't say much more about it, but it's very exciting, very amazing to work in on that project. It's really fun. It's great designs and things like that. So yeah, that's all I can say at the moment. And I'm not working on any other. I've worked a little bit on some stuff, but for now I can't talk about it. So yeah, mostly that, mostly the art direction of Party Animal.
All right. And well, the next question is a bit less technical. What area beside the area you're working on right now would you be interested to explore and learn in the future? Like what I mean by that, imagine if you had like, it's a hypothetical question. For example, if you had like a huge amount of free time, like extra time, and you could do anything, like even let's say there was no limitation on resources or money or anything like that. If you could learn anything or do anything, it could be even non-art related. What would you do in that situation?
Ah, even if it's not art related.
Hey, it could be both art related or non-art
Okay.
related. It's up to you.
So art related, I would like to work a bit more on character design because that's something I don't really do. Um, at the moment I'm focusing on environments because I'm absolutely in love with architecture and environment, but I would love to be able to actually put a little character that is well designed in my environment. Like let's say if I do a little market barrow, as I said earlier, I would like to be able to design the merchant. At the moment I am able to do this, but I'm never really happy about it, so I'd like to work a little bit more on that. And if it was not art related, I would actually love to learn like a new sport or something. I would love to be super good at snowboarding or things like that. I really love skiing also, but like snowboarding, for some reason I always loved how cool it looked. So I would say snowboarding.
All right, awesome. Well, Everything that's been said and done, to conclude all we discussed, please give us a roadmap for someone who is zero in visual arts and wants to get to the place you are in terms of skill set. Like for someone who is here, like at zero, and you're here to your level. What steps from here to here should they take to get there and go to that direction, in your opinion?
I wouldn't necessarily recommend going to a video game school and all that because a lot of them are private school and it can get expensive. But if you're serious about it and you can basically be self-taught, so I'd say the first thing you need to do is try and look for some good references, good material like learning, education on the internet. You can find that for quite cheap actually. You've got great website like Schoolism, ArtStation Learning. Basically, try and find tons of resources like this to learn more about art in general. And then once you know a bit more about the basics of art, like perspective, composition, light theory, color theory, once you have a strong basis, you can start digging a bit more into specific areas. Like, are you more interested in 3D? Are you more interested in 2D environment or character? And basically experiment, see what you like the most. And then it's a lot of personal work. You're going to have to do tons of different projects, try and learn as much as possible, be very curious, um, try and learn. It's not necessarily something as video game related. Like if you want to be a very good concept artist, it's not to play a lot of games that is going to help you do that. It's mostly learn a lot about very very different stuff. Go to museums, go see exhibits of different artists, go to look a lot of look at a lot of documentaries, like something really dumb, but for example, the way I choose my colors is mostly based of frogs and birds. They have when they have very very strong color um, coordination patterns and things like that. I usually take it from there. So basically, look at tons of different documentaries, movies. It can be museums, everything. Basically, be very very curious. Not only stay in your room and play video games. Um, and then it's a lot of work. Like you have to do tons of different projects, build your portfolio, and then apply everywhere. And apply to the game company you like. Even if they don't have an opening for your job, they often have like free openings. And if you feel really really strongly about a company, don't hesitate to apply anyway. And don't harass them because it's always annoying, but at least try once. And you never know if you don't try. So yeah, just um, try and find what you like in games too. Do you like something that is a bit more story driven? Do you like very brutal, cool stuff like Doom? It's going to help you also orientate your portfolio to something that you like and that you feel good about. Um, so yeah, it's mostly about learning a lot and working to to get what you want, but don't overwork yourself either. Be careful about mental health. That's something that is very important actually. Mental health in video game, it's not easy. So take care of yourself. Um, so yeah, that's what I would say.
All right, sounds pretty good to me. And well, thank you so much for that answer. But there's one last thing. Actually, it's a bonus thing that I recently added to the format of the podcast, which I think is it's a pity that I should have done it way sooner. Because it's been like I think, if I'm not mistaken, like 8 9 episodes I added this, which is the final words section, which I'm gonna explain to you what I mean by that. To anyone who is listening right now, or who might be listening at any point of time in the future, maybe 10 years, 20 years, 2 weeks, 2 days, whenever the video is uploaded, and they've reached this point at this point of the episode, and you have a chance and opportunity to leave a message to them. It could be about anything. If you could leave a message to people that might listen to this episode podcast at this point of time, what would that be?
Oh wow, that is a very broad question. I don't want to go too cheesy, like follow your dreams and all that, but um, yeah, if you're interested in a career in video game, please don't get discouraged by the fact that you think it's not for you, you'll never do it, it's not a real job. It is a real job. We have tons of openings, and it's an amazing industry to work on. Um, so yeah, just if you really want to work in video games, try and find specifically where you want and what sector you want to work on. Is it more game design or gamer? And yeah, try and find resources for it and go for it, because you never know until you try, really. So I would say, yeah, go for it.
All right, awesome. And well, thank you so much for coming by. Where can people contact you if they had any questions? Is there Instagram okay?
Yeah, Instagram or even Twitter. I'm more active on Twitter. So, and even Outstation. Actually, you've got a chat in Outstation.
Mm, awesome. And well, thank you so much for coming by. And thank you to anyone who's tuned in and listened to this episode, whether on Spotify or on YouTube. Thank you thank you all of you. I appreciate all the support. And if there's any suggestions or critique or for future episodes, maybe you guys have any ideas or questions in general, leave them down in the comments and I'll respond to each and every one of them. And that's about it. Take care, everyone. Have a good day. See you in the next episode. Bye.